Hello, welcome back to a Timey Wimey pod where we watch every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 onward and talk about it. My name's Rebecca,
I'm Haley.
and today we are discussing Series 1, Episode 7, The Long Game.
Yeah, which this episode, I'll get more into it at the end of this podcast episode. But this episode in particular, it definitely has a mixed reception and mixed
Definitely.
opinions on who likes it and who doesn't.
It's not my favorite, but I never skip it, you know?
I've always really enjoyed this episode. For me, it's it's definitely not in like the higher ranking of series 1
Mhm.
for me. But in my opinion, it is a good episode. I do enjoy it and I don't skip it either.
Yeah, I think it works. Like it's not the strongest of the series, but I don't think it's necessarily the worst either.
I agree. I love Aliens in London and World War
Mhm.
Three, but I would probably put this one above that.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. We'll have to. I'm really gonna have to think about the rankings that we do after we finish series one.
Absolutely, yeah. We are planning after we finish series 1 to do a bonus episode where we just talk about the entire series as a whole. We rank different things from the show and one of those will be episodes. So, my opinion is also completely subject to change. I can say the long game right now is above Aliens in London and World War Three for me, but who knows? By the end, I could feel very differently.
Yeah, nothing we say is canon, at least not forever. Do you want to hear some fantastic facts?
I would love to hear some fantastic facts.
So, our first fact today is that back in the 1980s, Russell T Davis submitted a story to the Doctor Who production where media became a force, a negative force in human development, and there was going to be a companion who we would see was just not fit for the job. And reportedly, whoever responded to the script that he sent in told Russell that he should not write sci-fi and to write more like down to earth stories, which I just think is hilarious.
That is so ironic.
Hmm. And so I love that he got his little redemption moment and turned it into an episode. Even though it's not my favorite, I think it still works.
Oh, 100%.
The next fact is that originally Russell T Davis wanted this episode to be seen from Adam's perspective, the way that Rose is seen from Rose's perspective. Uh, and it would see we'd follow Adam the whole time, and Rose and the Doctor would kind of come off as these like wild, eccentric characters who maybe even scared him a little. There originally the episode was even going to be called Adam, or it was going to be called The Companion Who Couldn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think that's interesting. I'm glad they didn't go down that route, though I wouldn't be opposed to them exploring that idea in the future.
Yeah, I would say in the future, I would appreciate it. In terms of specifically for Adam, no, I wouldn't. But for other characters, yes.
My last fantastic fact is that this script had a lot of alternate ideas. And in one version of the script, it would show that the reason Adam was exploiting future tech and like trying to do everything that he did in this episode is because his dad was dying of arthritis and he wanted to find a cure for it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I get why they didn't include that because it would have made the doctor dropping him off, and him yelling at him seem a little cold. But I think it would have provided a little more depth for the character because watching it without that, you're like, why is he doing this? Like, what is the point? We don't really get a motivation.
Yeah, we really don't get a motivation. I mean, we can guess, and I'll tell you like my assumption later on. But that's interesting, and that would provide some interesting context.
Definitely. All right, should we just jump into it?
Yes, but before we get into this episode, we do just want to make sure that it's known that when we're talking about Adam Mitchell, that we're talking about the character. We do not stand by the actor or anything he has done to cause harm. And we wanted to just make that extremely clear before we begin this episode.
Completely agree. The way this episode begins is one of my favorite ways for an episode to start. I just think it's so cute how Rose and Nine, they get out of the TARDIS first, and he's like quickly prepping her so then Rose can repeat back all the information to Adam to make it seem like she knew it the whole time. Like, I just think that's such a funny gag and such a cute moment for Rose and the Doctor. It's very best friend vibes. I love it.
I love it too. It is so cute that Rose like feels like she can show off to Adam and that the doctor helps her in that. Like it's just the
Yeah, I
cutest
love
moment.
that he lets her have that moment.
Me too. And side note, I love her outfit in this episode. I'm
Oh,
not afraid to say it.
I love her whole look. Her hair, the jacket, I'm
Yes.
obsessed. So then they realize that they are on a satellite 5, and they look out onto the earth, and the doctor says that they are in, how does he word it? Like the fifth great bountiful human empire or something like that.
It's the fourth great and bountiful human empire.
And then Adam faints, as he would, and the doctor says he's your boyfriend, and Rose says not anymore. And I just think already she's done with this man.
She was like, "Mm, yeah, I don't think he's it for me."
Yeah, yeah. It's clear.
I noticed that after like Adam faints and like when he comes to and everything and they're looking at like the food marketplace, the doctor says to Adam, "Come on, Adam, open your mind."
Oh my
Which is just like
gosh, that's funny.
I yeah, I didn't notice it till watching it just now, and it gives a little nod to what's in the future of this episode, which is really funny.
That is really funny. I really like the food market scene. I think it looks really good. It feels like a food market on a space station, and I love them just getting food. I think that scene really works.
Same, I agree. I love it. I love a good space market.
And then the doctor goes off to kind of look into what's going around, and he teases Rose for being on a date, and she says, "You're gonna get a smack, you are." And I just love that line. It's, again, the banter is so good in this episode between them.
It's so good. And then Nine starts realizing something is a little bit off because from what we see, like Nine says he's familiar with the history of the fourth great and bountiful human empire. Like he knows what's supposed to be there. And he mentions there's supposed to be like fine cuisine. People are supposed to be really kind. They're supposed to be basically like way ahead of where they currently are now. And he says something's wrong here. Like, is my watch wrong? And he was like, no, my watch isn't wrong. And then Rose in response says, well, maybe you just got your history wrong. And Nine says, no, Rose, my history is always perfect, which very doctor thing to say, but it is true. Like, if something's off with history, the doctor is pretty much almost always right. And we kind of see that throughout this episode, things are interesting to say the least.
Yeah, we're definitely in this episode, we definitely don't see the future that we would expect to see of humanity at this stage in the game.
For sure, for sure. After he says this, he kind of asks some people what's going on, and we meet two characters, Suki and Kathika, and I really enjoy both of their characters, and I really love Suki's character.
Infinitely more interesting than Adam by a long shot.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
Yeah, they
Suki,
are both great in this episode.
yeah, Suki's great. She has a lot more to her than we initially think. We think she's just kind of a little like happy go lucky girl, but she's more than that, and I love that.
Me too. This is where we get the first mention. The wall, like anytime anyone asks what Floor 500 is, all people say are the walls are made of gold. And that's all people say. And we don't know anything else. Just the walls are made of gold. And if you go to Floor 500, no one comes back.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the doctor asks Suki and Kathika questions, and for the most part, they just kind of answer. How do I explain it? Like, they answer basically what's in front of them. Like, they don't stop to ponder, to really deeply think
Hmm.
about the things going on, about like, why is everyone obsessed with going to floor 500, even if the walls are made of gold? But why? And we learn that once you go up to floor 500, you don't return. And so learning that, and the doctor's asking questions, but none of them are being answered, it's interesting for sure, and kind of indicates that there's something at play here on this satellite.
Definitely. And then Rose, the doctor, and Adam follow Cynthia and Suki, and they get to watch what would you call that? This news gathering exercise.
So basically a bunch of people have like this info spike in their head, and whatever their trigger is, for example, snap of the fingers, their forehead opens and then they download any and all information. And that is them being journalists, which is so icky. It is so icky for that to be considered journalism.
Yeah, this episode was hard to watch. I won't lie.
Rebecca's a journalist. If you guys,
Yes,
yeah, I don't
that's
think we've mentioned that, but
I
Rebecca
don't
is
think
a
so.
journalist.
Yes, it's how I
So
pay the bills, which I'm very thankful I can do. But yeah, so a lot, some of things I will sometimes with these kind of criticisms of media, it almost feels like someone sometimes with celebrities and writers and people kind of in the public eye, you can see that they are just kind of taking it out on their annoyance of certain reporters and journalists they've encountered in their career, which is fair. Like a lot of people have really bad experiences.
that's so interesting to think about. Good points. Good points there. And while they're watching all of this happen, Rose kind of notices that the doctor isn't happy with this, and she asks him trouble. And then him and Rose both start smiling at each other, and Adam is literally in the middle of them and just glances between both of them, being like, why are you guys happy about this? And it's such like a small, cute moment that is just like the best vibes of Rose and Nine.
It's the best. I love it. And then we hear that someone is getting a promotion.
Yeah. And it's Suki. Suki's getting a promotion. She's going up to floor 500 and says
Yeah.
goodbye to everyone. And as a viewer, I was confused. I'm like, why is she acting like she's never going to see any of these people again? Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is the scene where we learn once you go up to floor 500, you don't come back.
It's funny to see how upset Kathika is that she doesn't get a promotion.
Yeah, she is salty for sure. And we did skip over a scene that I want to quickly talk about. When the doctor is asking Suki and Kathika what Satellite 5 does, that's when we learn that they're journalists, that they, share the news with everyone. And I think it's Kathika that shows 9 different channels, and one of the channels is the Bad Wolf channel, and on the Bad Wolf channel, it says the face of Bo is pregnant, expecting little Bo Mina. And might I just say, true or not, whether this is meant to be like a tabloidy thing or the truth, this is the most on brand thing for the face of Bo to have, especially on the Bad Wolf channel.
Oh, the face of Bo knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh, 100%. He he has so many inside jokes with himself.
Yes, he really does. We love that big old face in a jar.
We do. Sorry, just hearing that.
And then we get this scene between Adam and Rose where Adam is just being a wimp or pretending to be a wimp and he just can't handle it. And so Rose gives him the TARDIS key because he says he just wants to sit on an observational deck alone. And she gives him the key in case, it's too much. And I really love the moment where he's like, "You'd rather be with him," referring to the doctor. And the line where he says, "It's going to take a better man than me to get in between the two of you." I really love that line. And it's so true because it definitely is. And everyone around them can already see how strong Rose and the doctor's connection is.
I completely agree. And once on the observation deck, he sees a computer, accesses it, and realizes there is so much information and knowledge on this computer that he obviously doesn't have back in 2005, 2006. So he wants all the knowledge. So he leaves a voicemail on his parents' voicemail machine with all of this information.
Again, we kind of already discussed this, but I wish we just got a line or something that would have told us like why, what is his motivation? Is it that he's a genius and he just wants to know everything? Does he Is he trying to like predict the future for so he can do stock market trading? Like what exactly did he want to get out of this? It's just I wish we had just one line kind of explaining.
For me, I've always assumed that he just got greedy. I mean, think of who he was working for in the previous episode. He was
Mhm.
working with Henry Van Satin, who was not a good example, and he has been gone. We here in the long game, like he hasn't seen his mom for 6 months. So there's those two factors, and then he goes time traveling and he's also a genius, and I think he honestly just got greedy. He realized the computers possessed a lot of information, so why not just have all of that information himself and become the computer and be able to be rich and smart and amazing where he's at or back home?
No, that is a really good point. I like that interpretation a lot.
Thank you.
And then we get to go see Suki in Floor 500. What do you think of the design of Floor 500?
It is so creepy. We haven't mentioned it till now, but up there is who I call the creepy guy. I know technically his character's name is the editor, but like I think of him as creepy guy. There's like all the snow and it's cold and it's creepy and spooky because there's like dead skeletons and then there's what looks to be like really cold, almost dead people like at the controls, and I do like the design. Like it does its job. Like it's very creepy and like weird. Um but yeah, Suki gets up there, encounters creepy guy, and we learn she's actually not Suki. She is actually part of the Freedom Foundation, which apparently is like a little organization that is trying to figure out who's behind Satellite 5 because they've realized the facts and news has been manipulated and things have just been weird.
And throughout this, we are getting glimpses into Simon Pegg's character, who is essentially the lawyer, the agent for the assistant of the Jagrafess. He says that the Jagrafess is his client, but I don't know if we ever get clarification on that. But I thought Simon Pegg, I'm not familiar with his other work, but I thought he was really good in this episode. and I read that he said he was really excited about playing a villain, and that he really enjoyed his time on Doctor Who, and it was an honor to be in this episode, which I thought was sweet.
That is sweet. He did a very good job at being creepy. Like, he really did play the part very well.
Definitely.
And as Suki is found out by a creepy guy, then creepy guy introduces Suki to his boss, which is an alien on top of the ceiling. And we don't get a glimpse of this alien quite yet, but for from what it seems, the alien did unfortunately kill Suki, which is really sad
It
because
is
she is a great
sad.
character.
Justice for my girl Suki. You know what I just realized?
Hmm.
Adam is from 2012. He's roughly Rose's age, but in 2012.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know why I just never thought about that.
I completely forgot that he was from 2012. Why do I keep thinking he's like from 2005, 2006?
Which means in Rose's timeline, Adam is significantly younger. Like in 2006, her year where she's from, he's significantly younger than the version of him that we meet in the Dalek, because we're in the future in the Dalek.
That's weird to think about.
Yeah. I
That's
don't know
so
why.
weird.
It just,
Timey-wimey.
the timey-wimey. Yeah.
Okay, but if Rose was 19 in like the episode Rose, she travels with the
Hmm.
doctor, comes home a year later, then like she's a year younger than what her
True.
actual age is.
I know. I wonder if it's a problem for the companions, who at some point just don't really know what their age is, because they spend all this time in the TARDIS where time is very wibbly wobbly, and then they get sent home, but it's not, how long they've been gone doesn't always line up with like the dates. So if you're a companion for a long time, you must just like not know your actual age for a little bit. Like there's no way Amy and I think Amy and Rory say like it's been 10 years, not really for them, but and it's like complicated. You know what I mean?
It's yeah, it's so complicated and with other factors in their lives, how do they remember? How do
Yeah.
they remember how old they are? How long they've been places? Like I could never.
Yeah. I think that would like drive me crazy as a companion. Like I need to know the day. I would like be trying to like track the days in the TARDIS, but I feel like that would be really hard to do.
Tally marks, like if you're in prison or something.
Exactly.
And while this is happening, or maybe like after this is happening with Suki, we go back to Adam and he goes to floor 16 because the computer wouldn't like let him continue searching until he went there. And I do have a question for you at the end of this. So he goes
Oh,
to floor 16, he finds out that's the medical floor, and he finds out that he can get a chip in his brain. So he can either get the info spike on his forehead or just like a regular old chip in his brain. So he had unlimited credits and he's like, hey, okay. So he goes into the exam room, but then he kind of starts freaking out again. And he's like, actually, I don't think I can do this, kind of. But he's also interested and intrigued. So he does want it, but he is scared. And the nurse doctor person eventually convinces him to do the info spike. And so he does. My question to you, do you think he was pressured into getting
definitely.
it?
I think he was very conflicted. And I think part of him really wanted it, but part of him knew he shouldn't. And he was definitely very pushed to get it by this doctor character, who every time I watch this seems so familiar to me, but I don't know if I actually know her from anything else, or if she just reminds me of someone else.
I'm pretty sure I can't recall the actress's name, but I'm pretty sure the actress herself is a well-known actress.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing because I agree. I think he ultimately was pressured quite a bit to get it because he was very conflicted, and obviously that was not ethical at all, but Satellite 5 isn't ethical, period. Um my thing is though is like after he did that, he just fully accepted it. Like he wasn't like truly upset that he got it. He just got very excited that he could possess all of this information. So I think two things can be true at once. Like he was definitely pressured and shouldn't have been. And maybe if he wasn't pressured, he wouldn't have ended up getting it. But like at the same time, he wasn't mad or upset that he got it at the end.
Yeah, I definitely agree. At the end of the day, he still made the decision, and he he was exploring the idea for sure. So, yeah, he was definitely pressured into it, but still he chose to get the chip.
Definitely. He definitely did. And meanwhile, Rose and Nine are both like trying to get to the bottom. They both want to go see what's going down in floor 500 after Suki went up, especially. And I love the moment where Rose says, "Look, it's looks like it's time to join the party." And Nine basically agrees, and they both go up. And I just think it's such a sweet moment.
It is great, and he's so happy it's just like the two of them again, and they have the like handhold, which is just so. It's like becoming one of their things at this point, and I love it. And then when they get to floor 500, he kind of tells Rose to like go back downstairs, that it's not safe, and she just ignores him and is like, I'm not leaving."
Yeah, she says tough, and
Tough,
I love it.
yes.
And then she just like keeps walking on, which
Mhm.
is iconic.
She's great.
And then they meet Creepy Guy, and Creepy Guy at this point wants to know the tea behind the Doctor and Rose because
Mhm.
he had done scans on them and he wasn't coming up with any information. And he wanted to know who they were, what was going on, and then the creepy guy reveals his boss. And this alien looks so gross. It's like
Yeah.
slimy and has teeth and it's gross. Okay, it's gross. And we learn that the alien called the Jagrafass has essentially been controlling everything for 100 years on the satellite.
And throughout the episode, Rose keeps mentioning like how warm it is in the on satellite 5. And at one point the doctor is like, "Yeah, like you're asking the right questions. Why is it so warm?" And here we find out it's essentially to keep the creature alive, to keep it cool enough to sustain itself. And that's why it's like freezing on floor 500, and everyone is essentially killed, and their corpses are left to continue working in as they freeze.
Yeah, because while the people themselves are dead, the chips are still working and still keeping along on the work, which is just very creepy to think about.
Definitely. I love when Rose sees Suki and she tries to help her, and then she realizes they're too late and Suki's already dead. It's such a sad moment.
It is a sad moment, and Rose and the doctor end up basically being restrained, and Adam goes to get info downloaded in his brain. And because of that, the creepy guy, the Jaggerfast, the whole institution basically learns everything Adam has in his brain, including all of his knowledge about the Doctor, Rose, and the TARDIS, and the TARDIS key. So not only
Mhm.
doesn't creepy guy now know who the Doctor is and who Rose is, he also knows that the TARDIS exists and that the TARDIS key is something that he could easily take a hold of, which is very scary when an enemy and a villain has control of the TARDIS because so much bad can happen with the TARDIS. And so, in this moment, thankfully, Kathika actually comes up to floor 500 because she wants to know the tea. Like, she's done. She's tired of waiting to be promoted, so she just goes up to floor 500 and she actually ends up saving the day, which I love. And it is such a strong moment for her character. She went from being very salty and upset about not getting a promotion to realizing that, like, hey, like, I need to help these people, and like my promotion doesn't really matter as much.
I agree. I It's a great moment for her character. Earlier in the episode, she and the doctor are talking and she's like, I've never really thought about it. I never like asked questions. Why would I? And the doctor's like, you're a journalist. And so it's great to see her finally step in this moment and take control.
Definitely. And while Kathika is doing this, Nine and Rose are trying to get out because essentially Kathika has made everything chaotic and crazy, and the temperature is getting warmer, which means like the Jagrafast is like not doing great. And so Rose and Nine are trying to get out. And I noticed for the first time, Rose uses the Sonic to help get
Mm.
Nine out of the restraints, which is such a cute moment. Is this the first time Rose uses his Sonic?
Oh, it might be.
It's a cute moment,
It
and
is.
they both eventually get out, and they're saved, and they stop Kathika from downloading, so Kathika remains alive, which is just such a great moment, and Floor 500 basically gets destroyed.
Yeah. Can we talk more about how Adam is just the worst? And it's that moment where the doctor and Rose are tied up, and Simon Pegg's character is like trying to find out who they are, who they work for, what's going on. And then as soon as it's like, like you're the doctor, you're Rose, and it's all Adam's fault. And it's a great scene, but it's really just shows like the the like anger from the doctor, the frustration is so good.
You can feel Nine's frustration at
Hmm.
Adam, and at the end of this, when they're getting ready to go home and go into the TARDIS, Adam literally starts saying, I'm sorry, but like actually it's your fault because you're the one that brought me here, so you're the one in charge. It wasn't my fault." And that is such a stark contrast to
Hmm.
Rose. Like
So
literally in the
true.
previous episode in Dalek, when she thought she was about to be killed, she was like, "None of this was your fault. I chose to come." And to hear Adam do the complete opposite, it shows like the difference between both him and Rose, and that's what really that moment really made me turn on Adam as far as my opinion, because I had been giving him grace and like empathy, but after this moment, I just can't. And this solidified my opinion over him, which is I do not like him at all. And it's because he blames the doctor and takes zero responsibility and thinks just simply saying sorry is enough to keep going on with the doctor. Like, how is the doctor supposed to trust him again?
Exactly. And I love that you brought up how in the last episode Rose is about to die and she doesn't blame the doctor and she tells the doctor not to blame himself. And here as they're getting into the TARDIS, Adam is blaming the doctor saying it's his fault. And it's if there's one thing this episode accomplishes, it's making Rose Tyler look amazing, which she doesn't need any help with. She looks amazing all the time. And it's just showing how much better of a companion she is and why the doctor chose Rose.
For sure, I completely agree. And it also shows that not everyone is like Rose. Like, not everyone is up for time travel.
Definitely. I love the ending of this episode. It is so iconic. They take Adam home, and the doctor says he's done. He's already got the best. He's got Rose. they keep snapping to open up his forehead, and Adam has to close it. It's really funny. And he even tries to like sympathize with Rose. What does he say to Rose? I forget.
I can't remember exactly, but he basically like pleads to like let him continue traveling with them and like Rose, come on, you can convince him to let me back in. And Rose just basically says nothing. She just stares at him
Hmm.
and just leaves him. Both her and the doctor go back in the TARDIS. And I think it's a big moment for Rose because she is kind. She is very kind, and in this moment, she was like, "I mean, you got what you deserved.
Yeah.
Like, I
He
was
put
kind to
her life
you."
in danger. He put the doctor's life in danger.
Mhm.
She realizes he's just kind of a dud, kind of boring, and she's not gonna stand up. She's not gonna help him. He made his bed. He has to lie in it.
Absolutely. And I mean, before they left, the doctor destroyed the voicemail, so all of that was protected. My favorite moment at the end, though, is when his mom comes in to greet him
Yes.
and she snaps and sees his head open and screams, and then that's the end of the episode. It's just really funny.
Yeah, that ending is so great. And I we're gonna play a quick little game called What Happened to Adam? What do we think happened to Adam after this? Where is he now? What's he doing?
Well, the doctor did say that Adam would have to live a quiet life because if he ever
Mm.
let like anyone know that he had that in his head, he would be like locked away and dissected essentially. So one of two things happened. One, he listened to the doctor, hopefully realized his mistake, lived a quiet life, and I don't know, wore like a I don't know, like a bandana or something on his forehead. Um, or he did confide in the wrong person and he is locked up somewhere, but people are
Ooh.
like, you know what I could see? I could see like an intelligence officer agency having him locked away and seeing if he can give them any information.
I can see him at first trying to sell himself as an asset, and he tries to go work for your Torchwood, your unit, your whatever. And then eventually they also realize he's just a dud. And even though he says he's a genius, he's kind of an idiot. And he gets fired and he has to go live in a house by a lake for the rest of his life and wear a bandana and a lot of hats and is sad and alone.
I like your version better. I think yours is the most realistic. Yeah. He just I mean, hopefully he did learn from it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe he has some animals,
Yeah.
but he's definitely probably a very quiet, private person now.
Yeah, I like the line the doctor tells him that he's going to have to live a very quiet life as kind of a punishment for what he's done, and I think it's a good way to leave off that character, and I'm glad that we never see him again.
I fully agree. One quick moment involving Suki that I forgot to mention that I think is like really just it gives me the chills kind of is that when everything is chaotic, floor 500 is being actively destroyed and Simon Pegg's character tries to get away and Suki literally she's dead but somehow she grips his ankles so he can't get away and it is just such a great moment.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great. It doesn't make sense. No, but I don't need Doctor Who to make sense all the time. I'm okay with not. Some things need to be answered, but some things don't, and that's okay.
I agree. This is one of those things that's like okay to me to just kind of leave up in the air.
Definitely. Do we have any reviews from 2005 for this episode?
So I don't have any specific reviews, um, but what I can say from everything I've read is that this episode has a mixed reception. A lot of people thought this episode was just okay. Other people don't have it as their favorite. Some people really enjoyed it. So it's definitely a mixed bag with how people perceive it, but as far as I know, it's not like it's a hated episode.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For you, what is at the heart? What is the heart of this episode for you?
I think the heart of this episode is two things. One, the power of asking questions. And when you stop asking questions, like what can happen? Two, the comparison between two different time travelers with Rose and Adam. What about you?
I you stole it right from my mouth. The not the power in asking questions, the power of good journalism and figuring out what's going on. That's a big part of this episode. And also just showing that not everyone is cut out for time travel. The heart is really showing why Rose is the best. Like the moment when the doctor wants her to go back downstairs and she says tough, for me, that's really the heart of it. She's not afraid. She's not freaked out. She's calm. She's cool. She's collected. She's tough. And it's just why she and the doctor work so well together.
I fully agree. I love them together.
Any final observations or comments?
I don't believe so. I think that's all I have for today. What about you?
I think that's it. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with Father's Day.
Yes, we will. And as always, if you have anything to say, send it our way at timeywimeypod@gmail.com or at timeywimeypod on Instagram.
Or Timey Wimey Pod on TikTok.
And with all that said, we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.